What's up, football fans? Welcome back to another Fans First Football Show. I am Jeff Hartman, joined by Rob Guerrera, and this is rare anymore that, hey, both of us have a victory Monday. This is exciting, Rob. Congratulations.
Thank you. Look, I'm rooting for the Steelers, sort of, because every Steelers win makes the Niners win over them in week one look better and better. So that win's aging like wine.
It's also good for the company. But anyways, when you still, hey, before we even get started with the action, did you have a good Thanksgiving? I know the nightcap was good for you beating the Seahawks, but did you have a good holiday?
I did. Thank you. Yes, it was a nice time, and it was beautiful to have your team playing at night. So I got to do the full Thanksgiving activities and then watch my team win at night. So that was a good combination.
If you could stay awake, the Steelers have had that game before, and sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, the tryptophan's just, I'm just trying to stay awake. But let's get started. There were not as many games on Sunday based on the fact that there were a lot of games with 3 on Thanksgiving, 1 on Black Friday. So we're not going to have as many games to talk about. So we decided before we went on the air today, let's just get right into it. Let's talk about the game that everyone is talking about today, Monday, and that is Bills-Eagles. What a game in Philadelphia. The Kelly Greens were out 425. Nationals audience, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. It lived up to the hype. Rob, you said you have a lot of thoughts on this one. Let's get started right off the bat.
The Eagles never lose. This team is unbreakable. Okay. Jalen Hurts had 33 passing yards in the first half. As a team, the Eagles had 99 yards in the first half. The Eagles trailed by 10 at halftime. They trailed by 10 in the third quarter. They trailed by 3 with less than 2 minutes to go in regulation, and they trailed by 3 in overtime. And none of it mattered because the Eagles do not flinch. They are very good at playing and being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. They showed it yesterday, and the Bills did not.
I've watched a lot of Eagles football this year, and it just seems like the way that they're winning is odd to me. It's really strange. Like you just mentioned, some of those stats, there's no way they win this game, yet they find a way to win. And it kind of feels like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're waiting for it to catch up with them. And it did against the Jets. I still can't believe that the Jets beat the Eagles at any point, but still they did. And the Eagles, like you said, they continue to find ways to win. Do you eventually think that this style of play is not sustainable, that they can't ride this type of momentum all the way through the playoffs? Or is this mean that they are battle tested?
I think that over the long haul, you're not going to just come out on top on this many one-score games. But we have seen sometimes there are magical years where for whatever reason, it just comes together for that year. Look at the Vikings last year. How many games, close one-score games, did the Vikings win? Now, I know obviously they lost in the playoffs, but that wasn't a one-score game. They got their doors blown in by the Giants. But I think what you're starting to see now is other teams are starting to believe that the Eagles are going to come back and win. And I think that's what happened to the Bills yesterday. I think the Eagles took the Bills' heart on a couple of plays. The first one in the fourth quarter, Josh Allen throws the interception, and it's 3rd and 15 at the Bills' 29-yard line. That is a down and distance where if you're the Bills, you have to get off the field there. You have to. It's 3rd and 15. You're nursing this lead. You need to get off the field. And not only does Buffalo not get off the field, they give up a touchdown on the play. I think that was just a dagger to them. And then obviously the ridiculous, just fantastic 59-yard field goal in the rain, down by 3. The field is a soggy mess. And Jake Elliott says, I'm an Eagle, so none of that matters. I'm just going to rip this through the uprights.
It was an entertaining game, but of course there's controversy, and there's a lot of people that are complaining. Buffalo fans have every right to suggest that, hey, that was a horse collar tackle on Josh Allen that wasn't called. If there's a listening audio, Rob's rolling his eyes, but you know what the Bills faithful are saying. They're saying they got jobbed. But here's my thought. My thought is that, hey, this is a game where you had it. You got to overtime. Josh Allen, I believe, is 0-6 in overtime games, including the playoffs now. They changed the freaking rules for him, and they still can't win. They still can't win. I don't know what to say to Buffalo fans other than your team is 6-6 now, and it's looking like it's looking very realistic they don't make the postseason.
I completely agree with you. And Bills fans should stop complaining about the officials and start complaining about your head coach because he butchered the clock management at the end of the game. How many times do we come on this show on Mondays and talk about this, Jeff? You're the Bills, right? Can we just blast the icing the kicker timeout into the sun, please? First of all, you don't ice a kicker with a 59-yard kick in the rain on a soggy field, especially knowing that there's going to be time left after the kick, right? You ice the kicker on a kick that they normally would make, an easy kick, so they have more time to think about it, and that's why you ice the kicker. On a super difficult kick, you don't do that. And had Sean McDermott not wasted a timeout before that kick, he would have had 20 seconds left and 2 timeouts in regulation to go win the game. Instead, he only had 1 timeout, and he decided to wimp out and kneel on the ball. Another sign, by the way, that the Eagles had taken the Bills' heart out of them. You've got the best quarterback in the world, or what you're going to argue is the best quarterback in the world, who's been on a heater, by the way. You've been playing great at the end of that game, and you're not going to even give him a chance. You're not going to even run one play to see if you get a big completion or a pass interference penalty or something. You're just going to give up and hope you can beat him in overtime. Sean McDermott butchered the end of that game.
I would say that I would even go into questioning what happened in overtime. So Sean McDermott, they go down, the Bills kick a field goal. Miscommunication with big play Gabe Davis, which could have iced away the game, but still he did. They brought the pressure, they had the beater set up, and that they just couldn't execute. So they kicked the field goal. I understand it. So then it's just like Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, it's like they're going up against a prevent defense. It's like, what are we doing? Are you playing for a tie? Like you can't just sit back and hope for the best. My gosh, I'm watching the final play of the game. The draw. I called that. My daughter's watching the game with me. I said, here comes a quarterback draw. She says, what? I said, they're going to run a quarterback draw. I could have bet my house that they would have ran the quarterback draw, and the Bills look completely shocked as Jalen Hurts rumbles into the end zone for the game-winning touchdown. But what's really interesting here, Rob, is that let's take a look at the Philadelphia Eagles. So they're 10-1. They're the top team in the NFC, but what a slate coming up for them. Your 49ers, Sunday at 4:25 in Philly is going to be a great game. Then they have the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Giants, who now are playing a little bit better, Cardinals, and finish up with the Giants. These next 3 games for Philly are going to be absolutely vital. Starting off with your 49ers, what are your thoughts on that one? We'll just get that real quick.
Well, I think from the 49ers perspective, this game is not nearly as important as it would have been if the Bills had won, right? Yeah, because if the Eagles had lost, the Niners could be the number 1 seed if they beat Philly this week, but that didn't happen. So the number 1 seed is likely out of reach for the 49ers. It's going to be big for them because they spent the entire offseason telling everybody they would have won if Brock Purdy didn't get hurt. So it's going to have a lot of personal significance to the players and coaches and everything. But in terms of the overall general NFC picture, it's not nearly as important as it would have been. For the Niners now, for me, the job is beat the Lions. Get ahead of the Lions. Make sure you're the 2 seed in the NFC. And if you are, then you're in a situation where potentially you're only going to have to play one of either the Cowboys and the Eagles in the NFC playoffs. And that ain't a bad place to be.
And don't underscore the 49ers saying, like, we're going to go into Philly, and if this is where we're going to have to go in the playoffs, let's go in there and prove that we can do it. And so that way, like, we've already slayed that dragon, so to speak. It's going to be a great game. I'm excited for that one. But I already mentioned that the Bills, it's very realistic that they do not make the postseason. They're 6-6. The games they have coming up now, they have a bye this week, but on the 10th of December, they play the Chiefs, then the Cowboys, then the Chargers, then the Patriots, and finish with the Dolphins. That's a really tough slate of games. Rob, if you were to look into your magic ball right now, do they make the playoffs, in your opinion?
No, I don't think they do.
That's incredible.
It's amazing to me, but this has happened too many times for Buffalo to just assume like, oh, they're going to get it together now. Like, no, this is who they are. Maybe they peaked against the Chiefs in the playoffs, right? Maybe that was the peak. We all assume like, oh, they're going to be right back. Maybe that was it. Sometimes that happens. And oh, by the way, I think it is hilarious because when the Chiefs beat the Bills in the playoffs, what do we always talk about? Oh, there was 13 seconds left, right? Well, guess what? There was 13 seconds left. The Chiefs had 2 timeouts. They went down the field. They got the field goal to push the game into overtime, right? Guess
Yeah.
what the Chiefs would have had if Sean McDermott didn't waste the timeout icing the kicker? They would have had 20 seconds and 2 timeouts, and they could have gone down the field and got a field goal. The team
Yeah.
that lost that way didn't recognize it and didn't take steps and didn't even try to do the same thing. That blows my mind. If you lose, you lose. But to not try at the end of regulation, to me, it just showed the Eagles took their heart.
Yeah. And never in my wildest dreams would I have said that Sean McDermott's job looks like it's on the line. But I absolutely think if they miss the playoffs, he could be out and they could be looking for a new head coach. So that'll be interesting. We wanted to get that was the marquee game, and I think it lived up to the billing. Let's go to another game, which I thought was sneaky exciting and fun to watch. I got to see the very end of this game after the Steelers game wrapped up, and that was AFC South, Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans. The Jaguars win 24-21, but it was not without a little bit of drama. A big time, I think it was a 50-plus yarder. I don't know that number, Rob. I'm sure you have it in front of you. The Texans have a chance to tie it up. Game tying field goal, stoink off the crossbar. No good. Jaguars win in a very, very big divisional game.
58-yarder by Matt Amendola that he attempted. No good, crossbar. I'm just so happy because, yes, please give me Trevor Lawrence against CJ Stroud in the AFC South for the next 10, 15 years. Like, yes. How many crap Texans Jags games did we have to watch on Thursday Night Football? Where it's like, oh my God, they were wearing the mustard uniforms and it was just brutal, right? Those days are over. Those days are over. CJ Stroud is so much fun to watch. And they're so ahead of schedule for the Texans. Nobody thought they were going to be this much fun this year. When they actually start to add more players now around him and Stroud develops a little bit, they are going to be a powerhouse in the AFC South.
Did you see the kick? Did you see the video of that by chance?
Yes.
I don't know if you're a golfer, Rob. I'm a golfer. Every now and then, if you're a golfer, you get under a shot just a little bit, and it goes higher than you're expecting, and you know it's not gonna get there. So you're like, up, that's got to carry. That's got to carry. I'm watching this kick, and I see this ball going straight up, and I said, he got under it. It's short. It's short. It's not gonna make it. And then right off the crossbar, boy, is that a gut punch for the Texans at home. If they found a way to win, they would have been 7-4. They would have head-to-head tiebreakers over teams like the Steelers. They would be in prime position. The Jaguars would be in first place in the South. Now I look at it because they've been 7-4 and they would have beaten them twice. What a way to lose! This is a huge loss. I agree with you. No one thought the Jacksonville Texans would be any fun, but this was a good game.
And you're right about the kick, too, because that was the first thing I thought when I saw it come out. I was like, man, that's really high. Because what do they always say? The further back you are, the higher the chance the kick is going to be blocked because you can't put the height on it. You got to get the distance. Right. And it came out super high. And it was just, I mean, how many times we've seen, by the way, too, the ball hit the crossbar and bounced through the uprights. This hit the crossbar and just was just short. But an absolutely fantastic game, and sign me up for more of those, please.
And the Jaguars, there's no, like, they might be in first place and they might be 8-3, and everyone thinks that it's their golden. But I'm telling you that they have a tough road ahead. They've got the Bengals next week, then the Browns, Ravens, Buccaneers, Panthers, and Titans. Some of those games seem like gimmies, especially with Joe Burrow out of the lineup now. But nonetheless, we'll see how things go for the Texans trying to make the AFC playoffs. They have the Broncos next week, which all of a sudden we'll talk about them. What the hell happened to the Broncos? They've completely done a 180. They have the Jets, then they have the Titans, the Browns, Titans, and Colts. This is going to be fun. This division is not over. There's still a lot of football left to be played. Let's talk about another team in the AFC South that played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Indianapolis Colts, 27-20. I don't know. This game was kind of like a nothing burger for me. It was at the 1:00 hour, and so I wasn't really watching too much. But Jonathan Taylor scores twice. What were your thoughts on this game, Rob?
All I kept thinking of is, man, how much more fun would the Colts be if Anthony Richardson was not out for the year, right? Because they've got some pieces there that you like. And Jonathan Taylor, obviously, Zach Moss, obviously, is good. Michael Pittman seems to be coming on. Josh Downs is good. Like, they have a lot of pieces that could make them fun and interesting. It's just they're missing the guy that they think is going to be the future of their franchise. And Gardner Minshew's okay. He's not terrible. You can win some games with him, obviously, as we saw on Sunday. But, man, if they had Anthony Richardson, they would be kind of another fun team, sort of like the Texans.
Yeah. No, you're right. And, they're finding ways to win. They're 6-5. They're still in the mix. They're playing competitive football. You look at the other side of the field, Tampa Bay. Mike Evans, I feel bad for that guy. I feel like the prime of his career is being wasted with this Baker Mayfield / whatever's going to happen next. I think he's a free agent after this year. He's got to be wanting the hell out of Tampa Bay, though. I mean, Mike Evans is just, I think he had 2 touchdowns in this game, didn't he?
Yes, 70 yards and 2 touchdowns, one of which, by the way, I don't know what happened. He was so wide open. He was the only player on the entire left side of the end zone. I have no idea how that happens. But, I mean, Baker hasn't been terrible for the Bucs this year, but he's not there. I don't think he's their future. And who knows, like you said, if he even wants to stay there. But, yeah, the Bucs are just kind of, look, they got their ring, and they've been paying for it since then. Quarterback succession plans are hard. I still think if they knew then what they know now, they'd still take the Super Bowl. But, they got some rebuilding to do.
Absolutely. Let's go to the other NFC South game. I did find it funny. The Atlanta Falcons put out a tweet and it showed like 2 players kind of like hitting each other, the Saints, and they said the best rivalry in football. I was like, no one's ever said that the Saints and Falcons is the best rivalry in football. I could think of a million
teams with no histories whatsoever. Like no one thinks that. No. I saw that tweet. You're right.
Yeah, that's an F- tweet from the social media crew from the Atlanta Falcons. But still, the Falcons beat the Saints 24-15. Weird game. The Saints and Falcons are now both 5-6. 5-6. I'm just looking at the NFC South standings right now. And so when you look at the NFC South, again, we've said this before. I don't think anyone wants to win this division. 5-6 is leading the division. And Tampa Bay's 4-7 with Carolina 1-10. Rob, what the hell's going on in the NFC South?
This is such a joke. The Saints are the only team in the division that haven't been outscored, and they've only outscored opponents by 7 points this season. It's just like, great. Sign up for Who Wants to Lose on Wild Card Weekend of the playoffs. Like, that's all it is. That is all it is. They're going to get a home playoff game. It's just hideously bad. Like, we got to stop this. We have to stop with this rule that just because you win your division, 1, you get into the playoffs, and 2, you get a home playoff game. That's stupid. It's stupid. These teams are garbage teams. And we're going to have to watch one of them in the playoffs. Meanwhile, we're going to have a team, whether it's, who knows, Minnesota or Seattle or even the Rams, maybe they could sneak back into it. They're not going to be able to make the playoffs because the stupid NFC South has to have a participation trophy.
I don't mind that the division winner gets a playoff spot. I mind that they host a playoff game. That's what bothers me, is you're going to make a team with a better record who's done better all season go all the way. Depends on where they're from. So let's say it's Seattle gets in and they have a better record. And they have to go all the way down to New Orleans and play a Saints team or Atlanta in a dome. I don't know. Not a fan, but I get what you're saying. All right, let's talk about some prolific offense here. And when I say prolific offense, I'm talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers finally getting over 400 yards of offense. I think for the first time in like 10 years, the Steelers had over 400 yards total offense. But don't worry, folks. It only equated in 16 total points as they beat the Bengals 16-10 at Paycor Stadium. This game was at least a little bit entertaining for me as a Steeler fan. It was also a dumpster fire in a lot of ways. At one point, the Bengals, the whole system of keeping the clock in the stadium was broken, and they had to have the officials keeping the time at the end of the first half on the field. So you have all of us, all the fan base watching. You've got people in attendance watching with no idea how much time's left. I'm like, what is this, soccer? This is horrible. Paycor Stadium should be imploded. I hate that place, but still, Steelers find a way to win. They are 7-4, right in the thick of things. And for once, after Matt Canada got canned, the offense shows some signs of life.
I saw somebody had a tweet. I can't remember who it was, but it was a tweet of Kenny Pickett's passing chart with the last game that Matt Canada had and then this game. And it's just, it was comical. Matt Canada just basically had him throwing at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage like every freaking play. And it turns out like, oh, we can use the whole field. You're allowed to throw past the line of scrimmage. Imagine that. And do I think the Steelers would have won this game if Joe Burrow played? Absolutely not. Is that their fault? Absolutely not. You don't have to apologize for victories. Good for Pittsburgh. They handled their business. They got the win. They're 7-4. They're headed towards a playoff berth in the AFC. The only thing I didn't like for Pittsburgh in this game, and maybe you could speak to this, Jeff, What the hell is Deontay Johnson doing?
Oh gosh.
Jalen
Well,
Warren gets
yeah.
hit and fumbles the ball, and you can find the clip on Twitter. The ball is just floating out there. It is rolling along on the ground, and Deontay Johnson looks like he sees it, almost rolls his eyes that Jalen Warren fumbled, and doesn't even make a flinch, not a move, nothing to recover the football.
I think it was a culmination. So the play prior, Kenny Pickett throws a great pass. Deontay Johnson hits him right between the numbers, catches it. He's going to the ground and loses the football, loses possession. And so everyone said he got 3 feet in. They should have challenged it. Tomlin said after the game he didn't have a good review of it. And so they just let it go. And then on the next play from scrimmage, Jalen Warren fumbles. I guarantee you Deontay Johnson, who's been overly emotional this season as it pertains to the offensive play calling and the coordinator stuff, he is still distraught. You can tell. And so he's probably, I don't know what he's doing, but there's no way in my mind can I imagine a situation where you don't see that ball right in front of you. You may think that he's down, but you don't assume that he's down. You jump on the freaking football. So I don't know. I guarantee you that this is going to be played on loop this week, and Deontay Johnson's going to have to answer a lot of questions about it. It was really disturbing, though, when I watched the replay. I'm like, what is he doing? There's guys on the other side of the field coming all the way across to make the tackle after it was recovered by Cincinnati, and Deontay Johnson's there just, I don't know, playing patty cake with the defender in front of him. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It was just such a bad look. And like everyone loves Mike Tomlin and all that stuff. It's like, well, you're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. And there has to be some sort of punishment for that. It's the ball. It is the most valuable thing on the field. Everybody remembers Cam Newton in the Super Bowl. At least Cam Newton flinched towards the football before he decided not to jump on it. Deontay Johnson doesn't even move. He doesn't move. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't anything. It was just such a bad look.
It was a bad look. And on a day where a lot went right for the Steelers in terms of offensive production, it's almost like you said, the passing chart of Kenny Pickett, which looked like a U. Everything was on the outside and right around the line of scrimmage. And now you look at the passing chart that he had after week 12, and it was all over the field. And it's like, oh my gosh, we also have this really young tight end who's very athletic. Some would say is like a Travis Kelce. His name's Pat Freiermuth. He's from Penn State. It's his 3rd year in the league. Oh, we can throw it to him now. He has 9 catches for 120 yards. And all of this damage done on 3rd down, up the seam. It's stuff that Steeler fans have been screaming about for literally 2.5 years. And so finally, when they can, Matt Canada starts to come together. I'm not saying that this team is going to win a Super Bowl or even a playoff game, but at least it's a sign that they're going in the right direction and maybe a little glimmer of hope for a franchise that was pretty down. Go ahead, Rob.
We got a little bit of breaking news.
Oh, what's that?
The Carolina Panthers have canned Frank Reich.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious? He doesn't even get 1 year?
They tweeted out this morning a statement from owner David Tepper, quote, I met with Coach Reich this morning and informed him that we will not continue as head coach of the Carolina Panthers. I want to thank Frank for his dedication and service. We wish him well. Special teams coordinator Chris Tabor will serve as our interim head coach. Senior assistant Jim Caldwell will be a special advisor to offensive coordinator Thomas Brown, who will take over play calling duties. There you go, Bryce Young. Good luck developing Bryce Young. Good luck. Remember all the great quarterback gurus that were supposed to be around him and how it was going to be so great? Yep, it didn't even last the full season.
This is why crappy franchises remain crappy franchises. So you had this guy in charge of your team. Now the Panthers will just go right into that game. They lose to the Titans 17-10. And so you have this guy in place and you trade up to get the number 1 overall pick and you take Bryce Young. And I'm sure there's a lot of buyer's remorse. We've talked about that on this show before with CJ Stroud lighting it up with Houston. And so now the guy that made the pick and was a big prominent part of making that selection, you don't even give him a year. You give him a year. Oh my gosh. Who would want that job? That's my thing.
Well, the only thing is the low expectations, right? The division is a tire fire. There's
True.
No threat to you in the division, really. Potentially, you think you have a quarterback that you can build around, maybe, although maybe you don't. I don't know. But, I'm not willing to say that Bryce Young is terrible, that he's a bust, that he's irredeemable. I'm not going that far. Not before he even plays a full season. So, if you win 5, 6, 7 games there next year, you're a hero. Hell, you may win the division. But yeah, I mean, David Tepper he's proving to be a very meddling type of owner, and it's just bad right now in Carolina.
David Tepper was a former minority owner of the Steelers before purchasing the Panthers, and this is not the Steelers' methodology in terms of
No, it's
coaching.
not.
And you look at the teams around the league that are consistently, competitive, and this is just not the way they do business. Man, breaking news here on the Fans First Football Show, and I got to say, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that they didn't even at least give me a year. You have to wonder if he might have said, "Hey, after this year, you're done." And Frank Reich's like, "Just fire me now, then." I don't know.
Well,
Doesn't make
the bloom is off the Frank Reich rose. I never saw a guy that wasn't a head coach get so much credit for a Super Bowl victory like Frank Reich did with the Eagles, right? And all of a sudden, guess what? We saw him in Indianapolis. We see him in Carolina. Maybe he's just not a head coach. Maybe he's just better suited to do other stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know what's really going on there, but since we're talking about the game, the Tennessee Titans do win 17-10. Derrick Henry does Derrick Henry things, scores 2 touchdowns. I don't know what else to say about this game.
The Panthers are terrible. The Titans are just bad. And so Tennessee wins 17-10. Like, that's basically it, and good for Tennessee. Like, whatever. Again, I always say this with the quarterbacks, right? This is all about Will Levis. Get him experience, figure out if he can play, and then you move on from there. And you know what? If you can get some wins in the meantime, good on you for it. And we saw it in Houston, and now we're seeing it in Tennessee. They get the win, and they can be happy about that, I suppose.
When I look at the overall slate of games on Sunday, there were some marquee matchups and then a bunch of crap. Like, there really were not a lot of. Let's go to the next game. Let's talk Giants and Patriots, shall we? Like,
crap.
The Patriots are basically running a high school system where they're motioning quarterbacks on and off the field. They just between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, the New York Giants and Tommy DeVito find a way to score 10 points and win. The Patriots are 2-9. The Giants are 4-8. The Patriots missed a game tying kick at the end of regulation. What are your thoughts on this one, Rob?
How the hell did the Patriots ever make the playoffs with Mac Jones? Like, that's a thing that happened. He is so bad. He threw an interception in this game that was so terrible. Blitz is coming. He throws late. The defender is right there just waiting for him to release the ball before he steps in front of the slant and intercepts it. It's just bad. And I know that, they missed a field goal that would have tied it or whatever, but come on. It stinks in New England. They have a bad quarterback. They have a bad roster. It's just bad.
They threw the ball 35 times. This is the New England Patriots. Mac Jones had 21 attempts. Bailey Zappi, 14. Like, Bill Belichick, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, pick one. Just pick one and ride with him. You're 2-9. What is the worst that happens? You lose games. You're already losing games. Pick Mac Jones as a first-round pick. Pick Bailey Zappi. Who the hell cares? What are we doing? Like, if I'm a Patriots fan, I'm like, this is so far from the excellence we saw for 10 plus years. It's got to be disheartening.
Speaking of excellence, by the way, the Tommy DeVito touchdown celebration, 10 out of 10, the little Italian handshake. I love, as an Italian American, I love it. Keep it up, Tommy. If for no other reason, I want to see him be the Giants quarterback going forward, just so I get more of that.
And the Giants are probably already talking about Daniel Jones needs to be traded or something like that. Let's go with Tommy DeVito from North Jersey. Tommy DeVito. There you go. Let's go with the Rams and Cardinals. Here we go. NFC West, right up your alley, Rob. The Rams, they blew the doors off the Cardinals. The 37-14 final score might not be indicative of this game. And I checked at one point on my Sunday ticket, I had the 4 screen going, the 4 boxes on my screen. One of them was this game. And I think the Cardinals only had 8 points through the majority of the first half. Rob, the Rams look like they could they make some noise? I guess is a question for you as an NFC West guy.
I keep telling people Sean McVay is not a bad coach, and Matthew Stafford is still a really good quarterback. If he is remotely close to healthy, the Rams are not going to be a team that you can just walk into the stadium and beat. They're not. They have too many talented players, and we saw it. I mean, Matthew Stafford doing what Matthew Stafford does. The Rams had almost 500 total yards of offense in the game. They dog walked the Cardinals in the Cardinals stadium, 37-14. And the rest of the way, it's going to be tough because the Rams still have the Browns, which that defense is still really good. The Ravens in Baltimore. They still have the Niners in the last game of the year, by the way, which they never beat the 49ers. Even when they're really, really good, they don't beat the 49ers. So it's going to be a tough road if you're the Rams, but I'm definitely giving them a puncher's chance to sneak into the playoffs in the NFC.
Yeah, the NFC is, you got that top tier. We've talked about that before. And then after that is like a bunch of, it's a mixed bag of goods. And the Rams are in there. So they did the job. They got the job done. And like you said, tough road ahead. And one of those games is against the Browns, who with DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who found a way to beat the Steelers. Steelers are happy because that equated in Matt Canada being fired. And then the Browns go to Denver, and this Denver Broncos team, what's going on with the Denver Broncos? We were making fun of them for giving up 70 points and over, I don't know how many yards, and they were awful. And, you know, the game has passed some of these guys by, like a Sean Payton, and yet they have won, I think, 5 in a row, maybe even 6 in a row, and they're 6-5. And now all of a sudden they're being discussed as a potential AFC playoff team. The Browns, tough loss. They go to 7-4. Now they're behind teams like Pittsburgh, where they had the advantage the week prior. This is a tough one for them to lose. Cleveland, like you mentioned, they have the Rams, Jaguars. They have the Texans still, the Bengals again. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But the Broncos, I've got to look at what they have coming up, because this was a good win for them. They had the Texans, Chargers, Lions, Patriots, Chargers, and Raiders. So maybe not the best slate, but still, what do you think about the Broncos here, Rob?
Well, first of all, I'm just glad the Broncos are interesting again, right? Because they were just pathetically bad for a long time. Now it looks like Russ is getting back to the Russ, to me, that was with the Seahawks early. He doesn't scramble as much as he used to, but he has that quality of we'll stay in the game, we'll keep it close, and in the fourth quarter, I will be able to make 1 or 2 plays, whether it's extending the play with my legs or making a really freaking good throw along the sidelines. Like, he still has that in him, and he's not self-destructing. He's not turning the ball over as much as he had been. And that defense in Denver is still really, really good. And so they're going to be in games.
Yeah, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson is, say whatever you want. I mean, he's the guy probably moving forward. I do think he's in the concussion protocol, so it might be PJ Walker next week.
Crushed. And it was a legal hit that they threw a flag on, because they always do anytime a quarterback gets hurt. He got absolutely smashed in this game.
Yeah, and he's just not that type of guy. And so everyone talked about the Browns defense, and are they going to be able to carry this team? Even if you do get to the playoffs, you have to have some type of competent quarterback play. You cannot have this handcuffed offense where you're hoping and fingers crossed that the guy can make a few plays. It's just not sustainable in the postseason. The Browns, this was a really, really bad loss for them. I cannot stress that enough, because when you look at the overall standings in the AFC, yeah, they're right in the thick of things, but this was a game when you look at the Broncos as not being a world beater. You just can't lose this one, but it was on the road. So Cleveland, they dropped this game 29-12. The Broncos' hopes are sky high. I'm sure they're excited. What's up, Rob?
One other thing for the Browns, Myles Garrett could not lift one of his arms over his head after the game. His arm was in a sling. He claimed to have heard a pop in his shoulder. That is obviously not good. But if he is not playing at an MVP type level, that obviously changes their defense significantly. And that is the thing that is keeping them in any of these games. So that's something to watch going forward.
And I saw Zadarius Smith left the game at some point. I'm not sure if he was able to return or not. But yeah, that defense, we talk about that being the backbone of that team.
Right.
A little banged up. Let's go to a game which was actually shocking in terms of the first half, and that's Chiefs-Raiders, AFC West matchup. The Raiders came out and were beating the doors off the Chiefs. And you're like, what is going on here? Aiden O'Connell? Really? Well, then the Chiefs wake up in the second half and end up winning the game 31-17, doing what they always do. The Chiefs are 8-3. The Raiders are 5-7. What were your thoughts after this game?
Yeah, it turns out if the receivers actually catch the ball, Patrick Mahomes is a pretty good quarterback, right? Like, it was absurd how terrible the Chiefs receivers were a week ago. And now, as long as they're just being professionals and producing on the field, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is going to be good enough to win you these games. That is the standard. When you have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, like, they're going to be good every single week. Just help them out a little bit and you'll be fine. And the Raiders, they got an interim head coach. They're just playing out the string. Let's be honest. We know what they are. The Chiefs have something to play for. They need to get it together, and they did in this one.
This is one of those divisional games that in the early portion of the game, I'm sure the Raiders fans are like, oh my gosh, we could do this. The Chiefs fans are saying, what the hell's going on? And then the cream slowly rises to the top and the better team finds a way to win. But let's talk about the Chiefs here for a second, based on the fact that, they are 8-3. And you look at the AFC, there's not that 10-1 Eagles team in that conference. You have the Ravens at 8-3. You have the Chiefs, obviously.
Ravens are 9-3.
9-3. Try to forget that from Sunday night. We'll talk about that in a second. But still, Chiefs have the Packers next week, then the Bills, then the Patriots, the Raiders, Bengals, and Chargers to finish out the season. They're going to be right in the mix for the number 1 seed in the AFC again, because when you look at that slate, you got the Raiders, no. Patriots, no. Bengals without Joe Burrow, no. It's going to come down to the Bills and the Chargers, and if any other team's going to slip up, I think this team's going to be right there where we all thought they were the whole season, and that's home field advantage, first round bye. Do you agree, Rob?
Death, taxes, and the Kansas City Chiefs with the number 1 seed. Patrick Mahomes has never played a road playoff game. You're not going to count the Super Bowls, obviously, because that's a neutral field. He's never played a road playoff game because every time they're the damn number 1 seed and he's got the game at Arrowhead. It's just death, taxes, and the Chiefs. That's where we are right now. It's when you have a really good coach and a really good quarterback, that's what tends to happen.
Oh my gosh. Like you saying that I just heard that for the first time. And that blows my mind. The dude's never played on the road in the playoffs.
Nope. Because they always have home field advantage. It's maddeningly consistent. It's crazy to me. And look, I'm not saying that if he played on the road, he'd be terrible, but like we literally haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. And it's tough to play at Arrowhead, particularly in the playoffs when it's cold and those fans are going absolutely nuts. But he's always had that advantage. And he's earned.
Yeah, gosh, that pisses me off though.
Right? It's unbelievable.
I just felt the same way about the Patriots and stuff. When you see teams that are just so good for so long, you just want them to change. Like, can we please? Like, it makes me so happy to see the New England Patriots suck so bad right now. Like, it brings me so much joy as an AFC team that, honestly, I felt that if it weren't for the Patriots, the Steelers would have won a couple more Super Bowls during that time period. But go ahead, Rob.
Think about that. Tom Brady has played road playoff games. The greatest winning dynasty and winning machine that we've ever seen in the NFL has played many road playoff games. Patrick Mahomes is in year, 6 as a starting quarterback, and he's never even played a single road playoff game, let alone won one?
Maybe this is the year. And if there's a team that's going to do it, unfortunately, and it makes me sick to my stomach to say this, it might be the Baltimore Ravens. So the Baltimore Ravens, they on Sunday Night Football go across country to the LA Chargers. And here I am as a Steeler fan, stupid Steeler fan, thinking maybe the Chargers can find a way to not Charger this thing up. Maybe they could not be the Brandon Staley Chargers. Maybe Justin Herbert and Khalil Mack and this cast of characters, which is actually a pretty marquee group, can find a way. No, they lose 20-10. Ravens go to 9-3, and all the Chargers fans are up in arms because of the could have been roughing, I guess, on Justin Herbert along the sideline that wasn't called. The Ravens are saying they benefited from a lot of calls. The Ravens were just a better team. You watch this game. I don't care if you just watch 5 minutes. You watch it and you're like, well, that team that's wearing the white jerseys, they are a lot better. And Chargers are going to charge it, right, Rob?
And I tweeted after the Bills-Eagles game that the Bills really chargered the end of that game because, the Chargers do it all the time. And, you can talk about the penalties they weren't made or whatever, but it's there for you, right? Because Justin Tucker actually misses a field goal, which never even happens. It's a 7-point game. There's 3 minutes and 2 seconds left. It's a 44-yard field goal. So not even a crazy long field goal. And Justin Tucker misses it. And there it is for the Chargers, right? You are the worst team, but you're at home. You have the ball, 2 minutes and 57 seconds left on your 34-yard line with your quarterback. You're ready to go, right? This is the time when you have to go down the field and at least get a field goal to tie the game, if not a touchdown. And what do the Chargers do? They start out okay, right? They do enough to give you hope, and then they step all over your heart by turning the ball over on downs. 4th and 6, and Justin Herbert basically can't even get a real pass attempt off, ends up getting an intentional grounding, and that was the end because Baltimore scored 3 plays later to make it a 10-point game, and it was all over with the shouting. But like, it was there. The Chargers are always good enough to be there in the end. Always, always, always. And they always blow it. And I don't know if it's Brandon Staley. I don't know if it's Justin Herbert. It's probably a combination of the two, although I still think Justin Herbert is really, really good. But it's comical how consistently they're like, the Chargers are as consistently bad at this as the Chiefs are at winning.
Yeah, that's a total antithesis. That's good. I saw there was one series, the Ravens had been just driving the ball. They weren't putting points on the board, but they were just always moving the ball, getting first downs. The defense is on the field for a bunch. And so finally they forced the Ravens. Lamar Jackson gets called for intentional grounding. They eventually have to punt. So the Chargers get the ball back roughly around the 20-yard line. And Brandon Staley decides, let's go hurry up. I'm talking like, we're not talking about any substitutions. They are literally on the ball as if it's a 2-minute warning and they have no timeouts left. That's 3 and out took 15 seconds and their defense is right back out there. And I'm like, holy crap. And they did it more than once. It's just, that's got to be infuriating for them and the defense that's been spending all that time out there trying to keep this high-powered Ravens offense off the board. This Chargers team, you know, you talk about a lot of disappointing teams. Like, I would think the Bills would be a disappointing team for a lot of people. This Chargers team has to be up there. And Brandon Staley's days are numbered. I think we know that.
Gotta go. He has to. It's been happening, and I know it happened before him too. Like, that's fair, but it's also happening with him. And like, Frank Reich gets fired in less than a year, and Brandon Staley gets another shot with Justin Herbert. He gets to waste another year of Justin Herbert's career. You know, it is amazing to me. But this has happened with the Chargers before. We have seen the Chargers have Hall of Fame quarterbacks and not be able to get a championship. It happened with Dan Fouts. It happened with Phillip Rivers. And it's happening again with Justin Herbert. It is stunning to me how the Chargers are able to do the hardest part of the job as an NFL organization, which is find the quarterback. And they did it 3 times. And they had Drew Brees, if you want to throw him in there too. And they have nothing to show for it. It's stunning.
It's stunning. Let's talk about the Ravens, though, because they are 9-3. They get the job done. Going across country is never easy. Mm-hmm. Now, they do have a bye week coming up. The Ravens have not had a bye week, so they're 9-3, sitting atop the conference. What do they have coming up? Well, we talked about the Rams going to Baltimore. They still have the Jaguars, 49ers, Dolphins, and the Steelers to finish out the regular season. If the Ravens get the number 1 seed, damn, they will have earned it, because that is not an easy slate of games. But your 49ers are on that list. That's going to be a tough slate for the Ravens to finish out the year.
Yeah, great. Can't wait for the Ravens to ruin my Christmas when they play the 49ers on Christmas.
Is it on Christmas?
It is.
Oh, that's a sin. That's a sin. I shouldn't have.
Looking forward to that game, but at least it's a late game. So again, I can still do all the Christmas stuff. But no, Baltimore is really good. I love John Harbaugh. To me, they have a coach that is willing to do unconventional things. He's willing to go. They have such a weapon in Lamar Jackson, and they fully realize it. They realize how he challenges defense. We saw it in this game at the end of the game when the Chargers turn it over on downs and Baltimore has a chance to close it out, and they just do the mesh point with Lamar, and defenses are so paralyzed. Even if he doesn't have the ball, they still have to respect it. And instead they give the ball to Zay Flowers, and he runs 37 yards for a touchdown, basically untouched, because that's the bind that Lamar Jackson puts you in. The Ravens they've got some pieces now. I know they lost Mark Andrews, which stinks, but they've got some pieces, and they are going to be a very, very tough team to deal with, regardless of whether they're the number 1 seed or not.
It's amazing as a Steeler fan, and the Steelers are so used to dealing with Lamar Jackson in this offense. And when you watch these AFC North games, the Ravens rarely ever put up a lot of points. It's very like low scoring because TJ Watt hits Lamar Jackson every play. If he has the ball in his hands, he's going to hit him. If he gives it away, he's a runner. I'm going to hit him. Mm-hmm. And so Lamar doesn't want to hold the ball too much. But these other teams, they don't know how to necessarily play against this offense. The Steelers and the Bengals and the Browns do it twice a year. And so it's definitely different in terms of how those look. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this AFC plays out. It seems like it's wide open, but it looks like the Chiefs have the inside edge for sure.
I completely agree with you, but sign me up. We get a Baltimore, Kansas City AFC Championship game. Yes, please. I would love to see that.
Yeah, as an AFC guy, no, I'm going to pass. But
understandable.
All right, Rob, that's been a good show. Any final thoughts on this week of action?
No, I think that we are now. I love this part of the season because the games are so much more significant and it's so much easier to see the ramifications of the games. Like, obviously, the games earlier in the year count, but we don't know what it's all going to mean when it shakes out. Well, now it's shaking out. And so now we're in the middle of it. Now we have a game like Niners Eagles on Sunday. That's going to be so much fun. I haven't even looked at the slate for next week because I was just so locked in on this Thanksgiving week. Let me look really quickly. We got Dallas, Seattle on Thursday.
Okay.
Fantastic. That'll be fun. And I'll, of course, as a Niner fan, have a stake in that. That's an excellent game. Denver, Houston. How much fun is that going to be in the early window at 1 o'clock? Sign me up for that. Let's see. Cleveland and the Rams. Niners, Philly. That's great in the late window. Kansas City, Green Bay is going to be interesting. Obviously, that's important for Kansas City. Cincinnati and Jacksonville on Monday. So we got some good games, even though there are some good teams on a bye this week.
How dare you not put Pittsburgh, Arizona on your list of marquee matchups? Like, that's
nope. Sorry. Hard pass on that one. That's a red zone game. I don't want to tell me when they're in the red zone. Tell me if anything cool happens. Otherwise, I don't need to spend a second of my life on it.
That's if the red zone doesn't get cleared out for a fire hazard or whatever happened.
That was crazy. So there was some sort of alarm for anyone that doesn't know in the red zone studio, and everybody had to evacuate. And like I used to produce shows at NBC, and they would do fire drills and stuff during our show, and they'd be like, "You have to leave," and I would be like, "No, we're on the air. We're not leaving for a fire drill." But I don't know what the emergency was, but they kicked everybody out, so they just left it on Bills Eagles, I believe.
That's a good call. That's a good call, though. If you're gonna leave it on a game, leave it on Bills Eagles. And yeah, I'm surprised Scott Hansen wasn't outside with like some type of teleprompter.
Right. Still there.
Yeah, we're not stopping. All right. Rob, good stuff as always. Tell everyone where they can find your 49ers coverage as well as on social media.
Sure. I am at all the socials at Stats on Fire. And if you want our 49ers coverage, we are the gold standard 49ers podcast network. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us everywhere you get your podcasts. We're on the socials at GSN 49ers. Please follow us. I promise you, you will be a better, smarter fan if you do.
There you go. You can follow all my work on the Steel Curtain Network for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Make sure you check out all of our Fans First Sports Network NFL podcasts by just searching FFSN NFL. And obviously, you can follow me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN _PIT. Rob, thanks for another week. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
Bye, Jeff.